we are live. Hello, Dana, and hello, everybody. Welcome to, I don't know, I want to call it Talk to Me Tuesday with Dana and myself. Dana Morningstar from Thrive After Abuse. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And for those of you who aren't aware, we are here once a week on, we are doing this stream once a week on Tuesdays. We alternate channels. So you will see us here every other week and over at Thrive After Abuse every other week, where Dana will host. All right. Welcome, Deborah, new member. Thank you for becoming a member of my channel. I see you and I appreciate you. Thank you. As well as to my other channel members. Okay. So Dana, how's it been going? How's your week? What's going on?
Life's been interesting. We went over to the old house yesterday. And I don't know if I was telling you or not, it's become an ongoing joke with us. Like if we really want to get frustrated or be put in a bad mood, we just need to go see the lack of work that's being done at our old house.
That's so frustrating.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, but they're moving forward, but it's slow going, but
right on.
It is what it is. So that's been what's going on with me. How are you? What's new and exciting in your world?
Oh, the usual. I made this silly video today for Instagram and Facebook with my cat looking over the top of my computer and talking about you should sign up for this channel. That's random. Okay, but otherwise things are great. I did want to start off today, and Dana and I discussed this earlier, with somebody commented to me earlier today that they were struggling, and I've seen this a few times recently, with having recently kind of broken no contact. And they didn't mean to, and now they feel bad about it. They kind of either did it over the weekend or they did it over a couple of weeks, and then they decided to go no contact again, or the narcissist kind of pushed them away again. So I thought we'd start with this. Dana, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think going no contact it's a lot like kind of falling forward, and it's easy to slide back into. Sometimes we don't even want to, like we might have to talk to them for some sort of reason, and then they just won't. They just keep pushing contact, or a lot of people fall for the false promises of change, or they, nostalgia or hope kind of set back in, and then they're like, nope, things were great for a week, and then the abuse started up again, and then they get really down on themselves. And I think this is just one of those experiences in life that we just have to really triple up our level of self-compassion. And sometimes we just have to go around that mountain a few times to really make sure that, yep, this is indeed painful. Like, I don't want to be here. I can't be here.
Yeah. Those are excellent points. Yeah. I mean, I would say this. The first thing, if I'm going to give you advice on how to move on from here, I would say this. I would say, first of all, stop beating yourself up about it, right? I mean,
yeah,
we've all done it on different levels. When you go through something like this, when you go through a toxic relationship, you're being abused regularly, mentally, especially psychologically, otherwise, I think what people miss is that they don't always see that there's this chemical addiction or this chemical connection with these people. So it's the same area of the brain, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dana, that is affected by drug abuse and alcohol, or drug addiction and alcohol addiction, correct?
I believe so. It's the same kind of, it's that behavioral shaping, that modification of like intermittent reinforcement. And it really is, like you would use the analogy a while back about, it's like quitting a heroin addiction.
Yes.
And it very much is like that.
Yeah. So it's normal for you to want to go back. It's normal for you to feel the urge, even though logically you're like, I don't want to be with this person because they abuse me. This other part of you, first of all, we have abuse amnesia. The longer we're away, the less we remember about the bad stuff, and the more we remember about the good stuff. This kind of stuff actually is true with childbirth as well.
Yes.
And that's probably why we keep going as a species, because if we remembered every second of all of that, might not be so popular. With that being said, I think after you forgive yourself, then you just have to get back on the horse, on the wagon, whatever you want to call it. You have to just start again. We never really fail, in my opinion, and my weight loss attempts are evidence of this. We never really fail, in my opinion, until we stop starting. Okay. because we mess up sometimes, whether we're talking about eating or exercising or no contact people or drug addiction or alcohol addiction, whatever it is that we're struggling with, food addiction, we can overcome it. But sometimes we have to start and start and start and start. And that's okay. I mean, give yourself a break. But at the same time, don't give yourself so much of a break that you're like, well, I'll just go back for a couple of years and it'll be cool. Because that's not the case. Keep starting, keep going. Thoughts on going, Dana, and staying strong, staying away?
Well, and I think too, I just wanted to add, it's like you were saying, there's no sense in us, beating ourselves up about it. I think if we can replace that judgment that we feel about our behavior and replace it with curiosity, whether it's, girl, I'm with you on the whole weight loss thing, like with weight loss, whatever it is,
right?
Weight loss, a toxic relationship, what have you. When we go around that mountain, I think it is helpful to take a step back and while we're being compassionate with ourselves, to be curious about, okay, like, why did I go back? Like, what happened here? Like, what was the pull? What could I do differently? How can I set myself up for success next time?
Yeah.
And it's just that process of moving forward in all of this. And I think with moving forward, it does help. I just really feel like it's really helpful to have other things, because when we're addicted to something, it's that rush of dopamine that we're addicted to. That's what feels good. That's why, junky food tastes good. That's why it feels good in the moment. That's why going back to toxic people feels good in the moment. It's that rush, it's that rush of dopamine. And if we can get that dopamine in other more healthy ways, then it's going to decrease our dependency on just getting it from them. Yes. So I think it's like exercise, having a sense of a support system, getting out there, having fun, or at least being around other like empowering, nourishing people. It's really difficult. I think we're hardwired for consistency, and it's really difficult. Change is difficult anyhow, but it's especially difficult and we're social creatures. Even if we're introverts, we're still kind of biologically hardwired to seek out other people. And if this abusive person is our only other person in our life, or like 90% of our life, it's really difficult for a person to walk away from that. So, meetup.com, I'm a big fan of that website. Getting together with different people around things that are actually enjoyable to you, building up that support system. This is something a person can do even before they leave.
Good idea.
It just makes it so much easier to have kind of a plan in place for getting those needs met, those support needs met when you do leave.
Yeah. And simple things like gratitude practice. If you practice gratitude daily, it makes a huge difference, because here's the thing. Dopamine is the feel-good thing, right? It's the feel-good neurotransmitter or whatever. So if you can do things that will make you feel good, in addition to everything that Dana said, which is entirely accurate, if you can think about things that make you feel good, like even just laughing at a movie or a TV show that you love, or being grateful, because if you can feel gratitude to the point that it gives you that little tingle right here, like I'm so happy and grateful that I have my cats. I'm so happy and grateful that I have this, or whatever, whatever it is that makes you smile and laugh. Think about those things, or think about things that make you feel happy and strong and secure and whatever. Those things can help to kind of increase that production as well. You're trying to rewire basically your brain, sort of, to stop wanting to stop at the narcissist turn off, let it go on past that to happy. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm being clear here or not, but just a thought.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing about gratitude that I absolutely love is it's a really great antidote to fear.
Yes.
And if we're fearful about finances, about what the future may hold, about finding love again, about any of these things, being grateful for the little things really does help to just bring a person into the moment. Yeah. And I'm just such a huge fan of that. It's amazing what that can do. And that's something that doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't cost me money. And it just makes, when we flood our system with like appreciation, it's all of those feel good chemicals and just the realization of there's still so much that is right with your life right now.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And before we jump into our chat, which we're going to do very soon, let's talk about, you have another topic that you wanted to bring up that I thought was really great. Do you want to bring that up for us right now?
Oh gosh.
About the group thing that happened with the admin apocalypse?
Oh. Oh no. I was going to talk about the moving. Oh, when people leave, when the no contact thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Sorry.
That's okay. When people go forward with no contact so here's the flip side of this. So a lot of people struggle with no contact, and then they're like, okay, a lot of survivors that have been out for a while and they've healed to a certain degree, they're like, come on over, the water's fine. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people I think there's this space in leaving that people don't often talk about. And I see some people in the chat that are struggling with this right now. They're like, I'm having nightmares, this abuse amnesia, like I'm really struggling right now. I thought leaving would end all of this, and I'm still struggling. And
that's it. The water's fine, and it's not fine. I remember now. Okay.
Right. Like, and so a lot of survivors are like, come on over, the water's fine. And, life is going to be so much better when you leave this person. Mm-hmm. And that is oftentimes, that's true in the long run, but there's a short term, real difficult part, especially if a person doesn't have some sort of degree of support system there. It can really just be kind of this like long, dark road that a person has to walk. And I don't think that that's talked about enough.
Right. And it's a good point. And I think that when we say you must go no contact, a lot of people feel almost threatened by that because of this. They can maybe see this, or they've done this before, where they go through that, right? Where they get to the other side and they're like, it's not that great over here. But I would say one of the things I found when I did it, when I went no contact the first time and the second time, mm-hmm. Well, the first time with my ex, the second time with my narcissistic parent, I found that while the first few weeks were a little bit torturous, it got better with intentional self, vibration management or the healing process. As it went, it got better. And one of the things I think all the time that I messed up on a little bit when I first went through this myself was, instead of shoving down the emotions and being like, okay, I have to be happy now, a lot of people forget, and I forgot at first, to feel the emotions and let them out, and let the crying happen, and let the screaming and whatever you need to go through happen once you get out of that relationship. And I think that going through that and then finally allowing the emotions to come out and wash over you and then work through them is what I think, that's a big piece of the healing, even though it sucks. It's a big piece of the healing because it opens your mind and your thoughts to the possibilities of, because when you're in the relationship, you end up not being allowed to feel all that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
I didn't feel like my feelings were valid because I didn't even know what had happened. And so this derailed me for years. And I have always been kind of more Buddhist in my beliefs. And I really got involved in Buddhism. And so all of these emotions that I wasn't dealing with ended up kind of, I was hiding, not knowing, this was not a conscious thing at all, but those emotions were hiding behind a lot of more of like my beliefs about kind of non-attachment and basically being wantless and needless, kind of with Buddhism. And so I wasn't dealing with any of these emotions because I just didn't know what was going on or anything. I just wasn't validated at all and didn't even realize that I needed validation.
Right. And I think I was in a similar boat because even when I went no contact with my narcissist parent, I had just barely started to scratch the surface of understanding NPD and what it was. And so I didn't know the term no contact. I just did it instinctively. You know what I mean? And then as time went on, I realized, and there were a lot of emotions in both of those cases. So is there anything else you want to add about that before we move on to the chat?
No, I think let's just jump into it.
Alrighty. All right. Let me say hello to a few people really quick. Hello, lovely love, YH, Nicola, Cosette, The Beauty Within, Anne, Monica, Shelly Taylor, Susan Marion. What's up, Susan Marion? She's one of my channel members. Ancient Lantern. Hello. I like that. C. Rob, High Priestess, Doreen B, Josh Beeson, Stephanie, Stardust Ceiling, Doreen. Okay, we're getting it. Healthy Love. You guys, I'm so happy you're here. Heather Monroe. Okay. I have the first question if you're ready for it, or if you have one, go ahead.
Go for it. I've got one after you.
Okay. Well, I had it a minute ago. There it goes. Okay. Nicola Owen says she's 2 months no contact. She needs to stop looking at his profile, though, with a fake account. She said, I know it's sad. He actually unblocked me on WhatsApp, changing his photo to a nude one with the status it wasn't me. All right. Well, that's not really a question, but I think it's important to address it, especially considering we're talking no contact today. And I would say this. Stop it. You know better. You know, Nicola, I know that you know. I suggest that you block him on the fake account, honestly, or don't log into the fake account anymore. Because, yeah. And this changing his photo to a nude one with the status it wasn't me is obviously an attempt with unblocking you there to hoover you. So be very careful. He's trying to mess with your head again. So thoughts, Dana?
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna post a link. I don't know if I can post a link in your chat.
I don't think it'll let me even post a link in there.
Yeah. Let me see. Nope. Okay, bummer. There is this Yoda meme that I came across a few years ago that I absolutely love. And it says, if onto your ex's Facebook page you go, only pain will you find.
Yes.
And it's Yoda like holding his hand out, and I just, that clarified it for me, because it's like, that's so true. All that's going to be there is more pain. Like there's not going to be clarity. There's not going to be closure. It's only going to be them like baiting or provoking, or you're going to see them love bombing the next person or putting up this fake front of this ideal future just to dig at you.
Yeah.
Like there's no benefit. And so I think just having to remind ourselves, like, whatever it is that you think that's pulling you there, just remind yourself, like, you're just going to feel worse in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yep. Yep. All right. You got one for us?
Yes. Okay. So this is from Sam. Sam says, I had people supporting me, but more than support, they wanted to see me okay, when okay is just not possible. We need to drain all of the toxic waste we were submerged into, and that detox hurts. This is something that Healthy Love and I were talking about earlier, about how one of the other added challenges with getting support is other people, it makes them uncomfortable hearing about what we went through.
That's so common.
Yeah. And so they'll say things like, oh, you just need to get over it. You need to move on. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want you to talk about it. And that can feel really shaming and victim blaming and minimizing.
Yeah. I hear it all the time.
Yeah. And it's really difficult to get that validation and support from people who just, from people who not only like haven't been through it, because even survivors struggle with this. Like when it goes back to what you were saying, Angie, about like when that pain kind of subsides, you forget about it.
Yeah.
And that forgetting is part of healing.
Yeah.
And so here's another example of that. I went to go see my attorney yesterday for some unrelated from some other stuff. And she knows what I do, and she's a survivor. She actually moved to a different state and changed her name.
Wow.
And then went to law school. And so part of some of the stuff she does is domestic violence related. And she was saying that she has a friend of hers, and she's like, I don't even know what to say. The guy she's dating beat up his last girlfriend really badly with a hammer. And so anyway, so her friend is dating this really violent man, and she's like, I'm so scared. She's like, I don't even know what to say, because, and she's like, girl, wake up. And she's like, and then I get mad at myself, because she's like, I should know better. She's like, I had to leave and move to another state and change my name because her ex was so violent.
It's terrible. And it does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's easy for us to see from the outside, even when we are a survivor. It's easy for us to look at people and go, that's very obvious. But see, here's the other thing too, that I think people aren't don't always think about is that if somebody's never experienced this, and you kind of touched on this, but if they've never experienced this, they might just think, what's your problem? Get over it, because they don't understand the deep trauma bonds, and they don't understand the level to which you have been manipulated and changed
Yeah,
at the core. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I think that the support groups are so helpful. Coaching can be helpful.
I
Even
agree.
just, the videos, even this kind of thing where we're just sitting here chatting together with our
Mhm.
SPANily, our family, whatever, being real with people who have been there makes a big difference. And so if you are somebody who's gone through it and you're on the other side of it and you're almost to the point where you're hopefully getting close to forgetting it, I would say remember enough that if you do find a fellow survivor in need, that you could be compassionate. That would be
Yeah, because when people do that, when any of us try to rush somebody else into healing at a certain pace, and this happens with, I think, with any type of like grief or loss. If a
yes.
person has a death, let's say, it's very common for people, that makes people uncomfortable and they don't know what to do. And I think a lot of that comes from good intentions, where they'll say things, really insensitive things like, oh, well, they're in a better place now, or, you know, yeah, just stuff like that. They try to console a person
People
and
mean well.
they
Yeah.
mean well. I think
Yeah.
more often than not, they mean well, but really they're only saying these things to reduce their anxiety about the situation
Yep.
because they don't know how to handle it. And I think with survivors of abuse, it's definitely this mentality of like, oh, dude, you should be glad that chick is gone. She was high, she was nothing but chaos and drama.
Right.
But if you're like, yeah, I know she was, but I still had a lot of good times with her, and I'm just like, it's it's hard. Like it's a big mix of emotions. It just takes time to sort through.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't, like, just like you were saying, a lot of people don't understand why you would miss that crazy, chaotic person, and they
Yeah.
think to your, I mean, I remember when I left my ex-husband, again, I didn't even know what he was at that time. And I remember another narcissist in my life who I discovered later standing and screaming at me the very day I left, screaming at me because I wouldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying. I kept crying and crying. And I did leave. It was my choice, but I was still very upset. And this person couldn't comprehend why, and so that
Mhm.
was, I think, re-victimizing me in that moment. But anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan Marion said she can't go to contact, but she's getting the silent treatment, and that's okay. And I can get that. I can get that. I get it. Sometimes the silent treatment is a blessing. Beauty Within said she has a baby with a narcissist, and it's definitely hard to go no contact or gray rock. And that's the truth. I mean, and that's what we're kind of talking about here. Um, and even Ray says, I went no contact a month ago, and she's still in my head. Yeah, that's how it goes. And these are all, statements to that, except for the no, the silent treatment thing. But it
Mhm.
sounds like you're doing well with the silent treatment, my friend, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these relationships, there's been a couple people in the chat talking about like, they're still struggling with moving forward. All of that intensity. Here's the other thing too, is, and this is such a big thing, because even if this relationship ends, if and people will talk about this, they're like, well, I'm having a really hard time dating. Everybody else feels, the relationship feels flat.
Mm,
And then they really struggle with like, I don't want to date a boring person, but I don't want crazy in my life either.
yeah,
So
I've seen
like,
that.
yeah, I get it. I've been there too. I think in many ways it's something I still struggle with, of like kind of walking that line of like just trying to navigate how I perceive other people's behavior and my own response to it. But I think the one thing that's important is just to realize that most problematic people tend to come with a whirlwind of intensity. And if we're continuing to misread that whirlwind of intensity as something that's ideal, we're going to keep getting caught up with them.
That
And
is a great way to put it.
it's
Yes.
I mean, my goodness. And it took me decades to see this connection, because every manipulative, problematic person in my life, they were in different roles. I had some as friends, I have some as family members, I dated some. They were all different in their approach. And so I didn't see that there was a pattern there. And until things, got really extreme, and then like here I am. But understanding like the difference between intensity and sincerity, and and this is why it's so important for all of us to set the pace and to realize like if somebody's coming on right out of the gate and they're like, they want to make you like their new BFF, like on day one, and they're saying that they love you and things are just moving really quick, to just realize like they might not be narcissists, but that's still problematic behavior. It's still because it's the fantasy of the other person. Like they're not seeing us clearly. And if we're falling into this or contributing to this whirlwind, we're not seeing them clearly either. And everybody can come across as a certain way. Your brain's going to fill in the pieces of who we think that they are.
Yeah.
And then odds are they're not going to be that person. So I had somebody ask the other day about, she was getting love bombed by a guy, and like her friends were saying, oh, basically all guys are going to love bomb you. They're just going to tell you, but it doesn't mean that they're all narcissists. And so she was really confused by that. And my response was basically, you got to slow it way down. Like it's problematic behavior regardless. Yeah. And if you value your feelings and your emotions and your time and your energy, then you won't get sucked into that, know? So like you have to slow it down and not be like, okay, we're going to, just go full speed right out of the gate, because more often than not, those things are a flash in the pan. They're not like nothing long-term.
Yeah.
Good
point. Yeah. And Wonder Woman makes an interesting point. She says it's hard to forgive yourself for being their supply too, especially when it made you lose out financially. And I think that's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. But I see a lot of people saying, I thought I was smarter than that. And that's part of the reason my channel talks about narcissistic abuse recovery for smart people, because the truth is I have not met a supply who has been especially unintelligent. I mean, most everyone that I connect with in this community, in related communities, pretty intelligent. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah.
Intelligent, attractive, capable, all these things. And they don't feel that way by the time the narcissist is done with them. But they are. And it's because narcissists aren't going after people who are not intelligent. They like a challenge. They want to have somebody that looks good on their arm, whatever. But the thing that throws people is because they are intelligent, because they do understand people. A lot of times they're empaths. They're people who are really connected in certain ways to people. And they go, well, how did I fall for this? It's because we can tell when somebody's lying, right? But we can't always tell when the narcissist lies because they believe the lie in the moment. I truly believe that to be true. In the moment that they're telling you the lie 80, 90% of the time, I think they really believe what they're saying. And that's why I think it's so hard, especially at the beginning of the relationship, to detect it. You know what I mean? I know with my ex-husband, it was like, he would talk about how, he was, I don't know, he was such an artist. He was so whatever it was, whatever crap he was trying to spew. And I would believe him because I believed, because I could see in his face that he thought he was telling the truth. In my mind, he was telling the truth, but now I know he thought he was telling the truth. It was the delusion. But what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. I think here's the thing. I think the more intelligent a person is, the better, the more well-constructed justifications they can come up with.
Yeah.
And this is why you often see in cults, it tends to not be just, like dumb people that join cults. Oftentimes you have engineers. I mean, I think it was the Heaven's Gate cult. There were quite a few people in there that would be what society would deem to be incredibly intelligent people. Yeah. And that's always been a thing that's fascinated me, is how does that happen? And I really feel, with manipulation, this stuff's not taught. Right. And so it's not on the radar of most people. And most people I have found, you probably have too, Angie, once they're aware, they have this piece of knowledge, like, oh, okay, I see it so much more clearly. So knowledge is such a huge component to avoiding this stuff. And then there's, unexamined vulnerabilities. And then there's also potentially some like unhealed child wounds that are going on.
I think almost always. Yeah.
Yeah. And if once a person understands, it's sort of like with online scammers. Before that was a thing, people would get caught up with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then once, like Craigslist had a big banner on their site for a long time. They're like, any offer to ship cars is 100% fraudulent.
Yeah.
People were getting caught up with like trying to buy cars that were a really great deal and blah, blah. But the thing is with manipulators is, they switch up tactics. So once a certain tactic quits working, they'll shift it. So before it was like the whole like, overseas prince scam that they're going to send you $1 million. You can take 10,000 and then just send them the rest or whatever. And then it was selling cars overseas. And then it was with online dating scams. Once people knew that this is what a scam looks like, they stopped getting caught up in it.
Yep.
But the thing is, like I had a gal I knew who was incredibly lonely for like a wide variety of reasons, incredibly intelligent, has a master's degree, I think, in political science, and had spent her life in corporate banking. Like she was used to dealing with like manipulative people. She was not anybody that you would ever say was, passive or a doormat. And she kept getting caught up in these online scams. And for her, even though she had the knowledge component and she had the level of intelligence, it was that unaddressed vulnerability. She'd been walking around feeling very unloved and lonely for a very long time. And so when that happens, I think it's like our brain just downshifts.
Yes.
Because we're so wired to get those basic needs met that your body just goes into survival mode almost.
Yes.
And we're just not thinking clearly.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And we can go into all the depth of how, biologically we're built to not be alone and all that stuff, but we're not going to do that today. But what I will say is the one thing I want to pull out of what you said in it, because everything you said was accurate. One thing I want to pull out of it is that's the reason I think that you and I do what we do, is because we're trying to help people, who have been there, but also maybe if we're lucky, we're going to catch somebody who hasn't yet, and we're going to help them not go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about ending the cycle on such a larger level. So I do hope that we're able to bring that to fruition.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's a comment from Deborah, and then another comment here. She says, yes, this is how I feel. Knowledge is power. I am on information overload.
Yeah.
But the more we understand, the easier I think it is to deal with. And I'm so much happier. And then Susan had said, I was there too until my therapist told me to cut back on the videos. It's just information overload. I want to address this real quick because I think everybody gets caught up in this. And I think there's a reason for it. So it's not just you. I think whenever we go through anything that's problematic, your brain is wired to keep you safe. That's its primary job, is to keep you alive. And when we go through something traumatic like this, your brain is on overdrive trying to make sense of what happened. And that's what's fueling this need of compulsive video watching on this topic.
Yeah.
And I really feel it's a very valid stage in healing, because a person and a lot of the night terrors, a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the obsessiveness calms down in time once you have more pieces of the puzzle. So,
and I think something to add to that is this. I personally, anytime I want to know about anything, whether it's something, a problem I'm having, or an improvement in my life I'm trying to make, or something I'm trying to learn how to do or change, I'm all about, like, I'll watch videos about it. I'll read things about it. I'll do all the things with it. And then and this is the way I stop. I know if I'm done watching videos about a thing, if it becomes boring to me, and to be honest, I have a little ADHD that's diagnosed, and I understand that. But if a topic becomes boring to me, then I know enough about it, I can move on. You know what I'm saying? And I think it might be a similar thing with healing, because I noticed that with people who go through this, and again, they didn't have videos when I was healing from this originally. They didn't have YouTube. Well, YouTube may have come out shortly before or shortly after the second time. No, the first time, whatever. It's been a minute. I've been out of the narcissistic marriage since 99, and out of the other toxic relationship with my parent since approximately 2013. So there was some YouTube out there, but I wasn't watching it. So at that time, I did read some, but there wasn't that much to read online at the time that I was figuring it out. So but my point is, I think that people who are going through the healing often find themselves either getting bored with the videos, in which case they know it's time to move on, or finding themselves triggered sometimes, or becoming
Mhm.
too obsessed, or too like, I've seen people, and I did it, go on 57 first dates. I did it, and dump people for dumb reasons all along the way, because not dumb reasons, but reasons that aren't really valid. Like, like I literally dumped somebody because for the entire date he had lettuce in his teeth. I'm not kidding.
Hmm.
I'm not kidding. And that's stupid. But I wasn't ready, is the thing, is the point I'm trying to make there. I wasn't ready yet. So why am I telling you this? Because because I think my point is, when it comes to watching the videos over too many of them, then that's just, when you're ready to stop, then stop. And then start watching videos about other things you want to learn how to do, or start reading about other things or whatever. I guess my point is, I'm always in this continual state of evolution personally. Are you that way, Dana?
Oh, yeah. I am a total self-help junkie.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
But not just self-help, but also like, I want to learn stuff. Like
Yes.
everything I do on my channel, I probably, all my video editing and everything like that, I probably learned all that on YouTube. Probably did.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's all a thing. Okay. Where were we? Do you have a question
Well,
for us?
let me just add to that, because I think one of the common pitfalls I see for a lot of survivors of this is they spend all of this time trying to understand narcissism, totally understand it's, you know, this crazy hit and run accident by just you, by this extreme situation that just you've never encountered before or never encountered to this degree. But I think it's really important that people understand like figuring out narcissists and narcissism and sociopathy and psychopathy, that's a big piece of the puzzle, but that's not the only piece. And
Yes.
it goes back to understanding and like reevaluating our any potential vulnerabilities that we might have, and kind of some belief systems that we might have about like forgiveness, family, love, commitment, what a relationship is, that intensity that I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's really looking at the world in a completely different way. And it can be so crazy making, because the vast majority of people out there don't see things the same way. They don't see
Yeah.
things in a healthy way.
Right.
And so that can be really hard to get validation. I think, there's been a lot of survivors that have been really triggered by, the whole 50 Shades of Grey series. And other
Yes.
people are like, no, it's romantic. It's just fun. And survivors are like, no, this is control. This is stalking. This is, and then other people totally invalidate that. And
Right.
then they're kind of feeling broken. Like, what's wrong with me? Everybody else, they're making it seem like this is me being hyper vigilant, and it's not. It's
Right.
not. Like, you're seeing problematic behavior clearly. And so there's so much more to this, like getting grounded in yourself and understanding, like, if it's not right for you, then it's not right for you. And it doesn't matter if you're in a whole group of people that don't agree with you. Like, you need to get solid enough in yourself to where you're okay with having your opinion and then acting upon that, whether it means kind of distancing yourself from some people, or smiling and nodding and then having them go see the movie, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just, it's so easy to get knocked off balance.
It is. And I think, just to kind of add a little something to that, I
Mhm.
think when I've dealt with anything, learning new things or understanding new things or overcoming, especially narcissistic abuse and the little issues that come with it, for me to know and to understand something on a textbook type of level without emotion, like, for example, what gaslighting looks like, or for example, why a narcissist would, do the cycle, the devalue, discard, the whole thing, why it seems so perfect at the beginning. Understanding all of that stuff logically, to me, was powerful, because, and this is right back to the beginning of this whole thing, because when you understand it and you can look at it and say, okay, here's a textbook example that I'm seeing in front of my eyes of this gaslighting crap, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, when you can look at that and see that, and you see that Dana's over here talking about it, Angie's over there talking about it, and now they're talking about it, writing about it or whatever, you can see that and go, okay, it's obviously not me. Because if these women went through it and all these other people went through it, and DSD, by the way, I see you. Hello, and thank you for being here. Dad Surviving Divorce is here in the chat today. Um, I think, when you see other people going through it and you hear, okay, Dana, how many times do people say to you, are you like looking it on my life because this is exactly what I'm dealing with. I mean,
Yeah.
right. So when you see that, I think for me, that was power. And if you look back at like jobs that you've had over the years and you learned how to push a button and the button did the thing, eventually, at first they were just like, okay, here's how you push the button. And you did that. And then eventually you learned to understand all the reasons the button worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so here's how you push the button. You learn about the behaviors and you understand the behaviors and you notice them in your life. And then you can go back to the wiring and figure out why all the behaviors happen. And then you can start to overcome and do the, as you go through this, you do the perception changing, you change your mind, you change the way you perceive yourself and that person, all in almost one fell swoop when it comes to the discovery portion of it. So, I mean, I think it's a long process, but it doesn't have to be as long as it would be without the understanding portion. It might just.
Oh, completely. I mean, that's the piece that's missing. I think it's that continual invalidation by a lot of mental health professionals and from society. And to have it, this stuff talked about in a concrete way of like, if you're being manipulated, like, no, it's not miscommunication. It's not a personality difference. It's not their zodiac sign. It's not, a matter of perception. It's not, like all of these things, they're trying to manipulate you. Like, that's why you feel the way that you do. Yep. And there's things that you can point to, but if a person, and I get it, like when you're in the middle of it, you're in fight or flight and it's just, some of the stuff is so subtle. It can be like the way a person looks at you. It can be just kind of like subtle behaviors. It can be really hard to pinpoint what's going on in the moment, which leaves a person feeling like, I must be making a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
And that's one of my biggest beefs with the whole like mental health field is it's been my experience personally and professionally that it's oftentimes treated as everybody is, is bringing their authentic self into a situation. And if there's some sort of conflict that it can be resolved in with like, assertiveness, and that, and 9 times out of 10 that the situation isn't problematic. It's the way that we're looking at it that's problematic. And I think Richard Grannon talks about this as like more of like tertiary gaslighting was the term he used. I thought that was so freaking appropriate because that's exactly what it is. And it's well-intended tertiary gaslighting, but when persons invalidate, I saw this time and time and time again. And I can't even tell you how many staff meetings where it was like giving problematic people the benefit of the doubt. And it's like, no, this is what they're doing. Like, this is a problem and they need to be validated, and to continually try to minimize it because, oh, this person must mean well. She's her mother. Mm-hmm. Right. Or, oh, this person, probably didn't mean it that way because of X, Y, Z. It's like, no, sometimes people do mean it that way. Like, you're not paranoid if they're really after you.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yes, absolutely. And I did a video today about this, something similar to this, where I was talking about how, a lot of people, and I can't tell you how many people I speak to. I've had 3 clients off the top of my head I can think of who went through this, where they were being surveilled through smart home stuff, cell phone stuff, all the craziness. Because nowadays our lights are controlled by phones sometimes, or by smart stuff and everything else. And so I've had people being stalked that way. I've had people being watched that way, and on and on and on and on, controlled that way. And I've had other people say to those people, you're crazy. Or they'll tell me, I don't want to deal with that person. That person's paranoid, delusional, whatever. And it's really happening in a lot of these cases. And yeah, it's really, you're right. If you're not paranoid, if it's actually happening. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I like this, but Mo Cowboy says reproduction and narc abuse feels good going in. It's hell on wheels getting out. Mm-hmm. It's a good one. It's a good one. Okay. All right. Let's see. Do you have a question for us?
Let's see. There was one by Malik. Let me see if I can find it about pickup artists. Let me see if I can find it. And narcissistic women.
What's the question?
I'm scrolling up. Something about like, what do we think about pickup artists kind of, what are your thoughts on pickup artists using techniques to counter female narcissists?
I mean, what is the what techniques, you know what I mean? Like if you're a pickup artist, I guess I don't understand the question. Am I misunderstanding the question? What's the question?
I
So
think it's just guys that are, or I guess women too, that are, I don't know. My guess is like trying to manipulate female narcissists for sex would be my guess.
oh, for sex. Okay, okay, I see. Okay. Well, I mean, I could tell you how to do it, but I'm not going to because I don't want to abuse anyone. You know what I'm saying? But if logically any of us who understand narcissists could understand the way to do it, I mean,
They're not complex creatures.
no.
So like, I don't know. I personally, I think it's a big fat waste of time,
Yep.
and you're potentially like you're playing with fire. You're not dealing with emotionally stable people.
No.
And if they find out they have such a fragile, underdeveloped ego, you know, when they don't get their way, what you see is you have an adult have a temper tantrum. They can become violent, they can become murderous.
Don't
It's
forget that little bunny on Fatal Attraction. That's a legitimate thing. Okay. Fatal Attraction. Watch it if you want to do that.
yeah,
And then
well,
think about it.
I really feel, you know, Casey Anthony, that whole case
Yeah.
was really the guy in the that was murdered. It was a real push pull kind of thing with him, and she was really unstable to begin with, and that kind of stuff. The book we were just reading in my book club was The Love Addiction by Pia Mellody, and she had mentioned in that, like, when you get these two really fragile people together and they start doing this push pull, and it starts becoming, and if each person only feels either gets their ego needs met, for like the narcissist gets their ego needs met by winning, and then the other person only understands love as intensity, then there's only like this window of time where both people are satisfied. But then it starts up with this like really extremes of push pull, hot cold, back forth kind of stuff, and it can lead to murder. Like it's just nothing that I wouldn't do pickup artist stuff anyhow. I think that's just a giant. I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess just be honest with your intentions. You know, like there's lots of people out there that are totally down for hooking up. Like just go hook up with people that want to hook up, but like don't play with other people's emotions. It's just that's not cool.
Be real with people. I mean,
Yeah.
if you walk up to women and you say, "Look, I'm just looking to whatever," you're gonna probably be slapped 5 out of 6 times, but that sixth time somebody's gonna be like, "Cool, let's go." You know?
Yeah.
I mean, don't be that ridiculous
I
about
mean,
it. But
Tinder. I mean, like there's a lot of people on Tinder that are totally down for just hooking up. But I don't even in this day and age, like it's just so dangerous. I don't know.
like I know. I'm gonna just really quickly admit to you that I'm old. So but I come from, I'm a Gen Xer, and so I understand that like sex isn't all like, oh, we have to be married first. As a matter of fact, my daughter asked me the other day, Mom, I thought we're supposed to wait till we get married to have sex. And I said to her, when you're a mature adult, and you're legally aged and all the things, then you should not wait until you're married. And that's because what are you going to do if you accidentally marry somebody who you're not compatible with? And that's a really weird thing to say to your child, but I really believe it's true. I really believe it's true. And so I told her that, and of course, with all the appropriate, you have to protect yourself, blah, 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 all the things, but she's not there yet, thank God. But even, why am I saying that? Anyway, I can't remember what we were talking about. But the pickup artist thing. Yeah, my point is that there will be some. I hope my daughter is never, subject to such a thing. And I hope that, and I know that I personally was subject to that crap, and it's not fair to do to somebody who will hurt because of it. And I also know, how am I going to say this without anybody? Don't judge me, you guys. But I also know that back in the day when I was younger and freer, I went through a thing where I was doing things for the wrong reason. I was connecting with people for the wrong reason, because now in hindsight, I can say I was looking for love. I was hoping secretly that one of those people would fall in love with me. But at the time, I thought, oh, I'm so modern and different than everybody else, and I don't have to follow society's rules, blah, blah, blah. And, so I guess as you get older, you understand things on a whole different level. And I don't know how old the person asking about the pickup artist thing was, but I think it's, I'm
I think there's a reason too, when people gravitate towards that like pickup artist kind of stuff, or even promiscuity in general. And I get it because I was there too when I was younger. It tends to be this substitution of intensity for intimacy.
Yep.
And oftentimes they're not even aware of it, or they're afraid of it. They're either afraid of being abandoned or they're afraid of being intimate because they're afraid of being hurt. And this stuff can fly under the radar, and it can seem like, oh, I'm just a really modern, empowered woman. And like, you know, or as a guy, like, oh, I'm just doing pickup artist stuff, or I'm just playing the field, or I'm doing whatever. But I think it's important for all of us to look deeper, like, what am I really doing? And what do I really want out of life? Like, do I really want to have a deep, meaningful relationship with somebody? And does that scare me? And if it scares me, then that's something to look at, because those abandonment issues can also fly under the radar and cause us to date people that are safe, or really push people away, or to cling to relationships that are not healthy.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, okay. I want to bring this up from Maria. She said she has been given the silent treatment. And this is kind of connected, sort of. She says, I beg, I cry, I apologize, and I ask for forgiveness. And she says, but now when she is given the silent treatment, she doesn't do that anymore. I assume because she learned it from one of us, because I always suggest that to people, don't do that. He quickly texts back. Why? Well, because he gives you the silent. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He gives you the silent treatment because he likes it when you beg, cry, and ask him to come back. And now he'll give you the text, but he won't see you because he knows you really want to see him. So stop that. So don't want to see him, or don't let him know that you want to see him. If he texts you and he apologizes or whatever it is he says, don't text him back. How about that? You know, just start to pull away from him emotionally. I'm not trying to teach you how to manipulate anybody, but Dana, thoughts?
Well, you know, I think these kinds of moments, we need to get really clear, like, where are our deal breakers and where are our standards? Yeah. And if we're having to sacrifice our dignity to be in a relationship, it's not a relationship worth being in.
Indeed.
And so I would encourage you, and this is going to be harsh, but pick your dignity up off the floor and don't let it fall again.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, like, those kind of games. This is exactly what we were just talking about, that push-pull. And there's that narrow window where, for controlling, manipulative, narcissistic people, they feel secure and kind of get their ego needs met when they're in control. So and they oftentimes, if you've got a sadistic one, the more pressure they apply, and they're getting you to beg and cry and plead, and you're in this like frantic scramble, and you're like, I don't care, I'll do anything. I don't care about my dignity. I don't care about anything. Just, I love you, I'll do anything. And that level of intensity, that makes them feel all nice and warm inside. And that's sick. That's sick. Okay. And so then on our end, we experience stability and safety and relief when they reopen contact. So then there's that narrow time when things are calm, and then both people, because if you're experiencing like, I only feel loved when there's this level of intensity, right? When he's showering you with attention or affection or controlling behavior and really showing that I'm significant to him, then that's when that dynamic kicks up again. Or if he's feeling insecure and he starts picking fights for no reason because he likes to see you in that scramble, do you see how this can't go anywhere? It's hot, cold, up, down, back, forth. It's toxic. There is no level of trust or emotional safety present.
Right.
And it's these things don't end well.
Right. So. Right. Absolutely true. Yes.
I've got a comment here from JJFX. Mm-hmm. He made a comment, something about a video he saw, saying that narcissists love themselves and empaths don't, and that narcissists somehow teach us love, I guess. Yeah, no, that's so off in the left field, off in the bushes. It couldn't be more wrong.
Well, he said something about what narcissists teach us love.
That narcissists love themselves, empaths don't, and that narcissists teach. It's sick.
So he's a narcissist. Is that right?
No, I think it was just a video that he saw.
Oh, a video. Okay. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't believe that narcissists teach love at all. Narcissists want you to, in fact, not love yourself so that you will only love them. And that's not real love anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And narcissists don't love themselves. That's the whole thing. Like healthy,
Right.
balanced, happy people don't need to have other people suffer. They don't need to bully other people. They don't need to have other people suffer. They don't need to continually be in that power over position because they're not threatened. Like they have an attitude of abundance of like, why not me and why not you? Like they're emotionally available to have to connect with other people in a meaningful way. They're not continually threatened by every little thing. It's only unhealthy people that are continually threatened by every little thing, that feel that need to control everything, that lash out and have adult temper tantrums. Like none of that is in the realm of love or self-love. Like that's selfishness and it's a immature ego.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I have, wait a minute. Doreen, did you see this question from Doreen? I'm sorry, I want to bring this up because I know we're running low on time and I want to make sure that we answer this. She says, I'm in the worst, most dangerous part. He is angry after we split 1.5 years ago. He then lost his job and now blames it all on me. So he wants to take us out with him, even though people know, some now. Wait, where's the rest of it? I just saw it. Hold on. Who do I tell? She says, I have an appointment with the local shelter in half an hour. Any advice? I mean, I think tell them. I think tell the police. Any thoughts, Dana, for...
Has he said this? Like, did he say that he wants to take them out?
I'm not sure. I don't know for sure. But what she's saying is it's pretty... Yeah, that I assume that she understands that he has either said this or implied this. I mean, I have one client right now whose ex told her son that he had a gun and he was going to kill mommy.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like
you don't mess with it.
No, you don't mess with that. And honestly, and that kind of stuff's also considered child abuse.
Yes. And in fact, it was in this case, but yes.
And so it regardless of how we feel about this other person, like you've got to get away from this. Like this is so incredibly just
and she's doing that.
Good. Good. That's good. So I would take that stuff seriously. I wouldn't ever be alone with this man ever again. So if you have to go back to the house, I would have the police do a civil standby. And I would let them know what's going on. I would take this very seriously, even if other people are like, oh, he just talks like that. I like if they try to minimize it, don't, because nobody expects their significant other to snap. And you never know. So I would take that very seriously. I would gather up. I would try to get out now, like get out tonight. So I don't know.
When you go to the shelter, say, please don't make me go back home kind of stuff.
Yeah. And come up with some sort of plan. So if they're full, if they're, I don't know, different shelters offer different amounts of time for people to stay. If the shelter, for whatever reason, isn't a possibility, I would see if they're connected with any local churches. Oftentimes they'll have funds where they can put somebody up in a hotel. But I would I don't know. I personally would go into lockdown mode. I would, like turn the GPS tracker off on your phone when you go to leave. And I would separate accounts so he can't drain them or take you off of them. You need to have access to your own money. And just realize that I think you're seeing it clearly because, she's going to the shelter. So, I guess just err on the side of caution, be safe, go with your gut.
Yeah, absolutely. And really tell anyone who will listen, if they're people who are in positions of authority or positions to help you, just be very careful to explain psychological, use the word psychological abuse or psychological manipulation if you can, if it's appropriate to do so. And another thing, I'm working on a series right now where I'm going to be helping people like psychologists, like police officers, like social workers, and what's the other thing, Dana? Attorneys understand NPD, narcissistic abuse. I've got a psychologist I'm going to work with on a little series here on this channel. So I think that'll be helpful as well. Okay, really quick, I just want to address this one thing that Fall Mary says, and I still want to see whatever I see you're looking for a question, so I want to hear what you have to say too. Fall Mary says, Is it possible for a narcissist to sometimes treat you well? Of course. Of course. Love bombing, hoovering when they want something from you, when they think they're going to get something out of it. That's it. Thoughts?
Wait, say that again.
Is it possible for a narc to sometimes treat you well?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Love bombing, hoovering when they want something from you or for some other reason. Like when they're going to get something out of it, you know? Yeah. Or attention from other people. So they might treat you like a queen or a king in front of other people, but treat you like crap at home. It's about getting.
Or treat you really well in front of other people and treat you really well at home until the abuse starts up again.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, especially with social media, if they do use that as a tactic, whether they play the part of like world's greatest spouse or world's greatest partner, they tend to do it in a very public way. I'm always very leery about people that post on Facebook about how these kind of grand displays of like how amazing their partner is, especially if the partner is the one that posted it. Like, surprised her at the top of the Eiffel Tower with a ring.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, God, like obviously you just did that for people to be like, oh, you're so amazing. I wish I had a guy like you, blah, 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 blah. Like it's so pandering to get that validation. And so, but yeah, that kind of stuff is common. And and it can be difficult for a person to see that stuff as kind of for what it is. It takes a little while to realize, oh my God, they're posting this stuff because they like the attention. Like they didn't love me. They loved they loved how I loved them, or they love all the attention that they're getting from other people.
Yeah.
Like it was never about us having this intimate moment of a birthday party or getting engaged or having a baby. Like it's just, that's wild when you realize that.
It really is. And I can't tell you how many people I've had be heartbroken over that. And I have been too. Yeah. But it's so, I mean, we can look at it and we can laugh in hindsight, right? But at the same time, I've had so many people say to me, oh my God, I can't believe that was all fake. And they're still struggling. I struggled, my God, when I went into contact with my narcissistic parent, I struggled ridiculously with, if I was walking and you were comparing my walking to my moving through life, I fell. Okay, when I went no contact with my narcissistic parent, I fell, I tripped repeatedly, I bumped up my face and my head, proverbially speaking. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know what the heck, if you think about being born to one of these people and then your whole life, you have to figure out which parts of it were real. And then when you recognize at some point, oh my gosh, this person literally affected every single thing I chose in my life up to this point and sort of caused me to become this way, whatever this way is, who I am today. That's annoying at the very least. And also it's identity crushing and you have to sort of start over. But I like to see this from the positive side of things. I like to see this as an opportunity to reinvent yourself or invent yourself for the first time. You didn't know you could do that before. Now you do. Okay.
Right.
You got one for us?
Let's see here. Monica says, I refuse to blame myself. Good for you. I have a counselor appointment tomorrow and then an appointment with a psychiatrist. Okay. That's fantastic. And just a little heads up, if you go in, you might want to use the words emotional and psychological abuse.
Yes.
Instead of narcissistic abuse, or instead of calling this person like a narcissist or a sociopath or whatever. So
they don't like it when you diagnose.
They don't like it when you, yeah. But it gives them, if you talk about the behavior, it helps to really paint a better picture of like what was going on.
Yeah.
So they can see it. So
yeah. And absolutely. See, okay, wait a minute. I just saw something. Oh, Bonnie. Bonnie said she went out and had a blast this weekend, finally took care of herself, saw Elvis in person. I just want to say this. Good for you, Bonnie. I'm proud of you for doing that. Thank you so much. I spoke to her during a mastermind meeting, I think last week, and she was really struggling. So I'm really glad to see that you're doing better, honey. Big hugs and love to you. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on before we step out? Because I think we're a little over time and I apologize for that.
No, these are all such fantastic questions that I know we cover any of them in like 30 seconds.
I know. Well, on the plus side, we will be together again 1 week from today over at Thrive After Abuse here on YouTube, or so come over there. And of course, we do our videos on our channels separately. Dana, you're also live Wednesday nights, right?
I am. And just real quick too, before I forget, I am going to actually be in New Jersey at an art gallery show for domestic violence.
Very
and
cool.
I'll be there this Friday and Saturday. So I'll be posting details over on my website, thriveafterabuse.com, and on Facebook and stuff. So if you guys are in the area, you want to drop by, say hi, come see everything that Healthy Love is the artist. She does
so cool.
phenomenal work. Yeah. So come see us. Come see us and say hi.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, y'all take a selfie and send it to me. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So like you said, like Dana said, thriveafterabuse.com, Thrive After Abuse on Facebook and YouTube. Check her out. I'll put her links here and at the end of the screen of this when I'm finished with this video and in the description below. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find us. La la la. Thanks for being a part of my day and part of my life. Thanks for letting me be a part of yours, and we'll see you soon.
See you next week.
All right, Dana. Thank you.
Bye.
Don't forget, next week on that channel. Okay. Adios.
Yes. Bye.